good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone around the world. I am Paul Sister, the host of In the Moment, and today our show is the Vellum, featuring the one, the only Kornelia Blackmore. Kornelia, how you doing, love?
Hello, I'm fan-fucking-tastic per usual. How are you?
Oh, awesome, awesome. I can see that literally you are dope as fuck.
Yes, thank you. I was going to say, listen, Paul, so are you. You dope as fuck.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Did you catch that poem that I read in that last space?
Oh my God, yes, I did, and it was incredible. I was just like, word drop, word bomb, word bomb, word bomb. I'm here for it.
I wrote that, believe it or not, today. Today, as first draft.
Huh?
First draft. No editing. No editing. I did a little adaptation to the Villanelle style where you're supposed to use like 1 and 3, and then you alternate on like 6 and then 9 and then 12 and 15. And I changed the words on my first line on my first line as I went through. So I did kind of a little altering to it, but it was really, really nice. I loved it. I was like, and I'm looking at all the people in that space, and I'm like, what the hell? I'm going to read it. I'm feeling it. I'm going to read it. I'll see if they let me up. And I was just like, yes.
Oh, I love that. Listen, Paul, I shared today for the first time in a Twitter space one of my characters, Cicero. I rarely ever narrate this character, if at all. Okay.
Yes. So that's what you read right before me, right?
I think so. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
That was what I read in a Twitter space.
That was brilliant. Brilliant.
It was
okay.
Fun.
Our guest today is someone that we both know on Twitter. We know him as T-Paw. If he wants to disclose his identity, that will be up to him. But for now, we'll just call him T-Paw. T-Paw, how are you doing today?
Hey!
What do, host skillet?
Great to be here. And I'm inspired by Cornelia's cat ears as always. I always have to make a comment about it all the time. It's funny. I actually had a headset that was like the white version of those. No, it was still black with like purple on the ears. And so every time you plugged it in and turned it on and everything, it was kind of like that, yeah. And I wore it during it was a horror podcast show with my buddy JB with Cinema Cobb. So every time we're like reviewing horror movies and talking about people being ripped apart and things like that, all the good things in life, he could see like glowy green or purple cat ears on my head, and he could never take it seriously. It was ended up laughing because I'm sitting there talking about people dying and really epic scores and everything like that, and all he could see is meow.
Love it. That's
the kids later on tore the headset apart, so I can't wear it anymore. But I'm thinking about getting a new one because of the fact that cat ear headset, and it's awesome. So, and I didn't get to get prettied up, like Cornelia did with like the makeup and getting shaved and whatever.
I honestly don't have anything on my face. Dead ass. All right. I'm gonna show y'all right quick. Wait a minute. Again. Okay, this is great. Listen, all I have is just lashes, right? And just bronzer. That's it. My face is bare, but it's just the light and this camera like doing my skin justice. Because my skin does not. Oh my goodness. It's fine. It's fine. Thanks, camera. Appreciate it.
Well, I don't believe you. I think you're gorgeous regardless. Gorgeous regardless. All right. T-Paw, as with everyone else, you are an author that we have on this show. And I'm going to throw
I'm an author? What? I write stuff?
I'm going to throw up a list of your books. Now, if I'm not mistaken, isn't the Snake and the Dame and Storms of Blood, isn't that like a part 1 and part 2 of a 2-part series?
Yes, and the reason why that is because part 1 and part 2 are functioning like. Do you remember comic books and how comic book stories are, where like you get to beat to beat to beat, and eventually you collect them all together in one big thing? Instead of me writing like a whole like 500-page tome, which is what I did before, especially with children now, I have 4 of them, and with life just being stressful and busy as it is, in order to keep my own mental sanity, and the way I tend to write anyway fits this type of thing. But basically, it's part 1 is like essentially act 1 of a big story, and then part 2 is act 2. And so the way it functions, it's like a comic book. And so when we get to part 5 or 6 or how many parts of the story, when you get them all together, it's going to be one giant omnibus, kind of like a graphic novel. So like, let's say you have Dark Knight Returns from the DC world with Batman. You'll have part 1 and then you'll have part 2 and then you have how many parts are in the story. And then when you combine them together, you get one giant big pack of art and everything like that. And so that's essentially what that is it's like a comic book with a graphic novel.
Nice. Can you tell us a little bit about both of them? What are they about? What's what genre?
Yeah, so they're kind of like part 1 is kind of like if you took Alice in Wonderland and you took Nightmare on Elm Street and a few other stories like that, and you took it on a mythical journey with this teenage boy who's learning that he has this inheritance, much like King Arthur, much like Luke Skywalker with the Jedi. He learns that he's a shadow thing, and he goes on this journey, and the journey takes him. You get to know his family. You learn that there is this demon lord named Abraxan who's essentially hunting him, much like the demon lord hunted his parents and their family and their friends. And so you find out that this demon lord has been around for eons, and he wants to. Initially, you believe that he wants power, he wants to control, he wants to kill, everybody, because he plays cat and mouse. He likes to play with his food. And then you find out that he wants to create, much like God, much like Des in this world. And in the story, Peter has to go through challenges that teenagers do. He has to go through getting chased by this demon lord guy, so it's kind of like cat and mouse. And the words snake and the dame is actually like a poem, because the snake could refer to either Peter or it could refer to Abraxan, the bad guy, because it's often compared to a snake. And Peter happens to be the grandson of the devil, aka Beelzebub, who is a snake. So it's kind of like the snake and the dame. And like I even wrote a poem in the book that is called Snake and the Dame that goes in the beginning of it. And the dame is technically an ancient spirit that used to be married to Abraxan. She was a lady who was named married to Abraxan, so it's the snake and the dame. So it could easily be Abraxan and the dame, or it could be Peter and the dame. It all depends on interpretation. And then Storms of Blood is very similar, only it's from Trinity's perspective, which happens to have that ancient spirit in her head that talks to her. It's kind of like having a multiple personality disorder, only it's with an ancient spirit, which I've learned that psychologically that's a thing. Like people do have their past lives. I think Kornelia mentioned that to me before about her own past lives, how they talk to her. So when I heard her talking about that story, and I've heard other people talk about that, and then the wife has her own stuff going on with her, I was like, wait a minute. So this Trinity thing could be real? Like it isn't just something that's in my imagination right now. Like some teenage girl walking around, with an ancient spirit commenting on her events or on her stuff, and then having some ancient demon lord trying to play with her next. Like, so basically the story is kind of like, it's inspired by Nightmare on Elm Street, actually. Only if it was Nightmare on Elm Street, half the cast would have to die. So instead, it's Nightmare on Elm Street with some Alice in Wonderland thrown in on crack.
I was gonna say, I really like that. I love what you did with the titles, because I'll be honest, I have one work that I did like that, and I called this piece The Counterfeit Bell, like I called the story The Counterfeit Bell. So again, it's a play on words, and I feel like you do that so well with your work. And I think that's freaking awesome.
I appreciate that. Yeah, no, I spent a lot of time. I have to remember to look for things that are marketable rather than just poetic or just, creative, because a lot of times I'll think, ooh, this sounds cool. I wonder what I could do with this. And then this sounds cool. I wonder what I could do with this. Or I'll write like poetic stuff in like my notes. I'll just kind of like get lines in my head and then I'll like write it down. But then like when I have to like actually publish it, I'm like, wait, shit. How many people have come up with this idea too? Let me go to Google and find out how in trouble I am. And so Storms of Blood actually was something that my wife came up with because of the fact that technically it was like I had like 5 different versions of the title. And then she said, well, what about Storm of Blood? And I'm like, Storm of Blood? And she's like, yeah, because Trinity is always going through like this psychological warfare in her head where she's going through what she wants to be, what the world's telling her to be, and what her pole is. So it's like nature versus nurture. And so I changed it to plural because of the fact that there's like different events happening in that story that could turn her dark or good. And she's going through literal, like there was a point where she, like much like Wanda from WandaVision from Marvel, she's literally going through this moment of the story where she's telekinetic, much like Peter. And so she lifts up blood that's around her because she walks into a room and like demon creatures are killing her classmates and people around her. And she like lifts up the blood and the body parts and everything essentially. It's being lifted in the air because she's caught up in the moment. She's like going through this emotional catharsis essentially, and it lifts up in the air. And then when she drops it, it's like this storm going on around her. And so it's kind of like one of the storms of blood. And so it's like not only is it a metaphor, but it's kind of like literal. So I tend to do that a lot with like my work, is I tend to like play around with duality and poetic symmetry. So big brain stuff that's like not meant to be big brain. It's just pulling around his dork with my world.
Well, listen, I was going to say it is big brain stuff, okay? But then again, braining a novel or stories or anything in general, that's why it's called braining. At least it's what I call it, braining a novel.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, speaking of, so, okay, remember how we had been talking and we had been like sharing each other's works and stuff and DMs on Twitter, right? So would you do the honors of talking about who did your covers? She's fabulous.
Oh, shit. Yeah. So the wifey poo actually, Ghostel, who operates under Ghostel Arts, she's the one who does a lot of the covers. Like I've tried my own attempts at it. I mean, I pay for the subscription on Canva and we pay for the resources too. I've tried to do really good ones. I've had some people give me good feedback on them, but Ghostel's work on the covers, like just like whole another level of like just amazingness. And so she operates under Ghostel Arts. We're actually talking, her and I are talking. I haven't announced anything yet, but we're talking about potentially her writing a side story in the Shadowfang world and her operating under J.A. Wolfric. It's like kind of like a cutesy like nod to the fact that I'm TPA, and so she'd be J.A. Wolfric. So like, and her first name is Jude anyway, so like it works. I asked her, I was like, well, what does the A stand for with you? And she's like, well, it stands for my middle initial. And I'm like, because mine stands for Aries. So like, we always joke around about that type of stuff, but we're talking about potentially doing that because there's a part of the world that I haven't really messed with that much, that I know for a fact is going to be created essentially. And she's like, well, I call dibs. And I'm like, you can't call dibs. It's my world. She's like, I call dibs. Kind of like, if you remember Red versus Blue, the cartoon from like the 2000s, where the person's like, it's like, I want the tank. And then they're like, you can't call the tank. I just did. I called dibs. And it's like, Sheila! And like, they're like talking about the tank and stuff like that. So her and I were like going back and forth about that. But yeah, since you guys may have wanted to know that about the covers, she does the covers and she does a fantastic job. She whole other level. Something about Kornelia and Ghostel that I just don't get is how they're able to do like these magical, mythical covers that just kick all the ass. And I'm over here like doing photography and all this other stuff, and I'm like going, how did you do that?
I do like, I don't know, like truthfully, like what inspires the covers that I make, I'll be looking at other people's work. I promise you, T. And I really feel like we both have a tendency to do this, where it's like you'll read something or I'll see something and be like, I could do that. And it can be better.
Yep.
Right? So I already know it's not just me that does that.
Yep. Oh, maybe it's part of pride. Maybe it's just, passion. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a teapot-ism, and I guess Cornelianism too. But like, you fall on your face a lot less than I do. I just simply just go, much like my kid. And so like, but I still do it anyway. And I'm like, all right, we're going to fall on our face today, but we're going to kick ass doing them.
This is what I love about Twitter Spaces is that I have met so many talented people. There's so many people that just have so much talent, whether it's, the way they write, the cover designs that they do, the names. There's people that come up with like awesome names for their characters. It's just, I love it. I love it. So many talented people. This writing community is just awesome.
Yeah, no, I actually was for a while. I actually felt like I was more alone than I was because of the fact that I wasn't involved in the Twitter community. And it went I think it was a year ago, I got really heavily involved in it. Met a lot of people, met other people who are all right. They, started out really awesome. Cornelia knows who I'm talking about. And then things sort of just went. So I'm glad that there are people that are around that are still, awesome, like Cornelia and like Paul here and other people. And like, sometimes I don't mix in well with others all the time because like I'm more straightforward than I should be, but that's just me.
Well, that's okay. We all have our niches. We all have our cliques. We all have, people that we can associate with and others that we can't. And I kind of look at it this way and all that. If you have people that you can't connect with, then find the people that you can and just let it be and let it go and move on, So I try to connect up with everybody, I try to find the good in everyone, and it's not that there's a lot of people that they may have some bad qualities or they may have some bad manners and they may have some bad this or that. I still try to find the good and I try to bring that out in them. And sometimes maybe you can help them bring it out in themselves.
Yeah, I think that you have an insane talent for actually gathering souls together because like you gathered Cornelia, you gathered me, you gathered other people. And I mean, you gathered Jay, you've been sort of gathering all these little souls. You kind of like the overlords in my series. You're gathering your armies of souls to do the things that make the world a better place.
Thank you.
I was gonna say, hence the story that Jay came up with in the Twitter space when we were talking about zombies. Listen, Paul being the dictator in the story, I was just like, I am here for this. I am here for this. Like, I support this.
Okay, now that's my dark side, and we don't bring out the dark side. Okay, this is all good side, but we go into a zombie apocalypse. I am Negan. Just know it.
Oh yeah, no, I would never hurt anybody for my friends or children.
You say that all comes to your nose.
That was why. No, listen, like anytime, listen, I feel like I can't remember what game it is or what game it's called, but I think it's called something like, what the fuck is Never Have I Ever? That's what it's called. So I feel like you can switch up the rules by being like, oh yeah, no, I never did that.
The cookies are totally not in the jar.
Yeah, I wasn't the one that ate the last cookie. That wasn't me.
I can't play Never Have I Ever because I've done everything.
Well, see, Paul, you're old enough to have lived through a lot of this already, so you just got seasoned experience on your side.
Yes, I'm a Gen Xer and I have 0 fucks left to give. There you go.
Look at this.
I just had a brilliant idea, and at some point, I am gonna want to play this version with like other people. but I want to do like Never Have I Ever in regards to past lives. Oh, that would be fun, because then it would be never have I ever done this in my in my past or reincarnated lives. That shit would be lit. I'm playing it. That's all.
Never have I ever gotten so high in a backyard full of zombies. Naked.
My mind is flowing right now. My mind is flowing. Oh.
Shadowfox said, "You got some cookies? Can you fax me?" Absolutely, Shadowfox. You gotta let me know which flavor you want.
Make sure you get all the stems out first.
That part.
Stems are really important, especially if there's teeth involved.
Unless I'm using it for butter, because I'm just going to call those special cookies.
There you go. There you go. All right. So.
In Ohio isn't real.
Stab.
I had to at some point.
Have you seen The Devil in Ohio?
I mean, I've seen Peaks. There's Google.
The Devil in Ohio. Really good. Really good. You got to watch it. Yeah. Anyways, T-Paw.
Yes.
Tell me where you're from and what inspired you to become a writer.
Holy shit. I'm actually from California. That's where I originally came from, was California, which SoCal area. So I grew up in San Diego area, actually, and I went to Mar Vista High School for like a good portion of my high school thing. And then later on, after that, Dad got a job in Utah. We moved up to Utah. That's how I ended up here. And then I finished off my high school years in Utah between two other different schools, which is funny because growing up military, especially when your parent or one dad's Navy, that generally means you move around a lot. And so the fact that I had that kind of longevity with one high school was insane. Like, I actually met a kid in senior year. He's like, wait, you've only been to 3 schools? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, dude, I've been to like 16. And I'm like, oh. And he's like, yeah, so it's not that bad for you. I was like, going, okay. But yeah, so basically grew up in SoCal, then finished off my childhood in Utah. And then I spent a lot of time playing in different bands, actually, as a drummer, and played in like heavy metal bands, death metal bands. Name the metal, I probably played it. I've got a double bass kit actually that's in our storage unit, but like I've played in bands. I've done played around with some filming, which is why on my Twitter it says filmmaker on there. I've got photography, of course, that I've done a couple different amateurish wedding videos, because it was kind of me just relearning how to play around with the camera when it comes to wedding stuff. And then, of course, I've written stories. And part of what got me into writing stories in the first place was I needed therapy.
Don't we all?
Like, it came down to like, because like, I wrote down Star Wars fan fiction when I was like 11, and then that didn't last very long. I wrote a couple fictions, and I think in my head I was imagining that I was Obi-Wan Kenobi playing with Qui-Gon Jinn and playing against some Sith Lord guy. And then later on in childhood, I ended up writing a couple of Harry Potter fan fictions, which those didn't last very long. So the fact that I had written a novel is actually quite an achievement, because I used to be that kid who'd be like, I wrote 17 pages, and they'd be like, well, that's cool, you got 700 more to go. And I'm like, wait, I have to go that far? So like I would do basically I learned how to write actually throughout high school, and then when I took quite a few courses in college for business, they actually retaught me how to write some stuff. So I was majoring in business administration, minoring in entrepreneurship. What inspired me to write was the fact that I needed therapy, 1. 2, I got told by my relative that I could actually be probably good at it. And how she told me was she sent me a book from Utah called Aragon, and in there she wrote in a little handwritten note in the cover page area, that the title page, that she's like, he wasn't that much older than you when he started his first book, and I was like 14, 15ish, and so that's kind of what got me to be like, well, maybe I should. And then I had like this weird nightmare about vampires, probably because I watched like a movie the previous night, and I ended up writing like an 18-pager that was like, started out with this guy screaming at this other guy, and then for some reason it got erotic because I was a horny teenager, and then like something to do with vampire wars at the end. So it's kind of like your traditional stereotypical teenage, attempt at vampire fiction. And I think it was like 14, 15, and that story was super interesting, weird stuff like that. I finally finished it at like 16, 17. Then Gostel actually read the full draft of it, and then sent and like did it as her book report. Like she literally, like, she was in high school and she did it as a book report. She read the whole thing and then did it as a book report. So really what inspired me to write was, one, needed therapy. Two, I wanted to try it out, and I wanted to see where it would take me. And then I ended up just getting a massive passion for storytelling, in which I preferred to be in my own world than I did in reality. And I think part of that was the fact that my parents were divorcing, felt like everything was falling apart, and like a bunch of crap was going on. And so, much like every other mortal on this planet that deals with childhood trauma and teenage trauma, I needed a fantasy world to escape to that wasn't something someone else created.
Nice. There's a great question here from Bryce. What's the cheapest way I can publish a book? How much should I expect to pay?
Literally, it's free. If you
Yes.
like, the cheapest way to do it is literally to write down whatever you're going to write in a document file. May not be the greatest thing ever built, but you put it in Amazon. There's a Kindle app that you can download from Amazon's website, and you could turn it into a Kindle ebook where it actually has a table of contents. You don't even want to go that far. Just you turn it into a doc file or turn it into a PDF file, whatever Amazon will accept, submit it to Amazon, and they'll publish it. Literally, that's how cheap it is.
Yes.
You don't have to put any effort into it. There's a lot of chaff on there that's done that way too.
Yeah. The reality, Bryce, the cheapest way that you can publish a book is write a damn good book and do the query process. And someone says, I'm going to publish that book, and here's 50 grand up front. They pay you. That's the cheapest way. They pay you. Outside of that, there's some self-publishing ways. There's hybrid companies out there that are going to charge you a little bit. If you do it on your own and you do it right, it's probably going to cost about 5 to 10 grand. You go through a hybrid company, it's going to cost you probably 2 to 4 grand. So then you can, like T. Paul was saying and all that, you can go through Amazon, you can go through Apple. There's a lot of Kindle Vella. There's lots of ways that you can do it where it's going to cost you little to nothing. So there's a multitude of ways.
Speaking of Vella, we have a certain lovely lady here who does a lot of Vella stuff. What was your answer to this question, and also how has your experience been on Vella?
Thank you, T. Paul. I appreciate that. Okay, so just to kind of briefly talk about my self-publishing journey. I have self-published, or at least the first book that I published was Carmina the Black Dragon Princess. I published it on Kindle. I want to say back in 2020. And at the time, I actually spent more on the cover and the editing more than anything else at the time. So really the best way I can answer this question, just for anybody that's looking to publish, and then I'll get into Kindle Vella as well, because that's a whole loaded question that I can kind of go into a lot about. But but truthfully, it depends on the quality of work that you want to put out. And the only reason I say that is because my first story that I put out, I didn't give a shit about any of that. I didn't care if like the story, I'm being honest, I didn't care if the story was good. I didn't edit it. And I'll tell you why. The reason was because there's this inherent fear that kind of starts to build up when you're like publishing and then you're just like, I don't want to do it. Maybe I should do it. No, I shouldn't do it. I don't want to, yada, yada, so on and so forth. So literally my first book, I will tell everybody that it's called Drowning, it's garbage. And the only reason why is because that book I put out just to publish so I can understand the process. And then after that, I was like, okay, so I can do, you know, different things in that way. But I've spent money for my ISBNs for a lot of my original stories that costed money. I've spent money on the book covers. I've spent money on editing. So that's what I mean, where I said it just depends on how much work that you're willing to do for yourself versus if you're willing to outsource it and pay someone else. So if you're willing to outsource it and pay someone else, the only thing that I would really recommend as far as like the most amount of money that you'll spend, even if you don't do everything else, just the cover. So all I ask, the cover. Now, the cheapest I've spent on my covers was about $30. And those are pre-made covers. The most I've spent on a cover is about $300. So again, it just depends on what it is that you're looking for, what your price point is, and how much work that you're willing to do versus looking for someone else to do that for you. And as someone that has published an audiobook and recorded it as well, again, yeah, it is a lot of work that is entailed. So that's really the best way that I can answer that question. It's just, you know, what your budget is and, you know, what you're willing to commit to versus what you're not. So.
Right. And then you also have to look at when you self-publish, you're relying on friends and family and you're doing a lot of the marketing yourself. If you go through a hybrid company, again, you're doing all the marketing yourself. If you go through a traditional publisher, they're doing the marketing, they're doing the setups for you, they're getting you the signings, the book signing deals, the publicity on radio and TV. So again, traditional publishing is going to help you market it. And here's the thing you have to recognize about like traditional publishers. They only publish about 20 to 50 books a year. But they make, when you go to like the NASDAQ, they make the most profit because they sell the hell out of the book. Now you go to a hybrid like I did, Page Publishing. Okay. Now this isn't a put down to Page Publishing, but Page Publishing will publish 1,000 books a year, but they don't market for you. I do the marketing for me. I have to get on social media and stuff like that to sell my book. So traditional publishers, if you're in it for them, if you want to make money, traditional publishing is the way to go. If you want your voice heard, self-publishing, there you go.
So go ahead.
No, you're fine. I was just going to say, because you had asked me earlier about Kindle Vella and how it's been working for me. And I'll be honest, I've made more money on Kindle Vella than I have throughout my entire writing journey. And that was even after I sold 32 copies when Carmina came out back in October of 2020, because I did a press release and it had 82 pickups at the time that I did it, which I also spent about $500 for that press release. So again, I've spent lots of money on this journey.
You also spend a lot of time. Like you may be scheduling your posts sometimes, and you even said that in your tweets. You're like very upfront about that. Yes. But that takes a lot of pre-prep work just to get posts to be scheduled. So you're essentially spending the same amount of time pre-prepping the scheduled posts versus just actively posting them when you're going to post them. And so like I have to give you kudos for all the hard work you do to not only spend 12 to 15 to 20 hours a day, which is essentially the same as doing a illegally over 16-hour day at a job, because you're only supposed to technically work 16-hour shifts. That's your max before you have to go to put the hours on a different day in a workforce. But like with your audiobook production, like you spend 16 to 20 hours a day just reading out the whole thing and having to like deal with the blips, have to deal with the recording, any issues that come up, making sure your voice is good. Like I've listened to the audiobooks. Like there's one that you have that's on YouTube that's on there, and then there's the ones you sent me that were for free, and then there's the other ones that I went ahead and downloaded off Audible that were on there. And you do a lot of work. Like there's a lot of work involved, and I have to give you kudos for that and everything, because like I know for a fact that the equipment costs money. Like I spent $40 on a decent mic, but I also spent like $36 the other, it was like year before last, getting a decent mic with a pop filter on it, and the pop filter is supposed to minimize the excessive noise that this microphone I'm using right now wouldn't be protecting me from. but like you do a lot of work to get your audiobooks done and to get all your stuff done in your villas, and I marvel at it. So, kudos.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, T-Paul.
I wanted to comment here on R.L. Evans. She was just a guest last week with Kornelia here on the show. As R.L. Evans says, traditional publishers don't really do all that extra advertising and marketing for debut authors, though. They do some, but not really a lot. And for the most part, Evans, you're absolutely correct on that. If you're a celebrity, you're a politician, you're someone that's known, obviously you're going to get a hell of a lot more marketing than what someone like myself or Cornelia or even T-Paw is going to get with a traditional publisher. They're not going to put as much money out unless you've written like the next Game of Thrones, I mean, it's just not going to happen, unless they can see the potentiality to make a shit ton of money. You're right. They're not going to put out that marketing information. But if they think they can make a shit ton of money, then they'll market it. Go ahead.
I'm laughing because there's actually a publisher that I talked to like years ago that told me that the novel I was writing back then was like the next Game of Thrones, but they weren't going to pay for it. That's what I'm laughing about. Is I'm like the irony of that statement.
Arananya says, "Yay, Cornelia, you really kill it. You're a hard worker. Definitely someone to learn from and watch." Absolutely, I could not agree more with that statement, Cornelia. The fact that you take on so much is amazing. I can't believe how much you're taking on. And of course, I'm privy to some things that other people aren't privy to too. So, you're a fabulous person for taking on what you do. And with that, Cornelia, I take it you have a big announcement to make today.
Yes, I do, and it is a very big one. So I want you all to know part of the reason that I showed up the way that I did is because this will be my final show with the Vellum, to which again Paul has extended. If I do decide to come back, it'll be a good experience. But honestly, since we were talking about that, truthfully, y'all, I mean, between the podcast, right? Between setting up my modeling photo shoots that I want to sell those, photos for book covers to graphic designers. I was going to say between that and the audiobooks. Now, I haven't told you guys this, but I've actually been commissioned for 2 audiobooks by other authors who I haven't even gotten started on. One of them is called Eugen, A Rare Truth, by Robert M. Adams. And the second one is Ignite by Joy Chandler, to which those 2 books I am severely behind on. I have my own audiobooks that I need to record. I also have a release that's coming out, which is The Saint's Blood. That's a Christmas release. So between that, editing, and then all the stories that I'm doing on Kindle Vella, which I have about 4 stories on Kindle Vella right now. So it's a lot. It is. It's a lot that I juggle. But I will say this. One, it's been such a joy and a pleasure to really be here and like interact with you guys and share work and all of that. And again, and a lot of you guys know this about me. So y'all already know, if you have questions, please, my DMs are open. Ask me. That's what I'm here for, truthfully, just sharing knowledge and information. Matter of fact, I recently talked to somebody on Facebook yesterday, and I told him, I was like, if you're going to get a Shopify account, make sure you get a Lulu account because they do print on demand. So that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of the work that I do is mostly research too. So I'm constantly looking around for different means and ways to make the work easier for me versus having it be where it's a pain in the ass because I only have but so much supplies. I'm working very limitedly, which is the other reason it takes so long. And committing to the show is, unfortunately, it's a lot for me right now. But like I said, with everything I'm doing, I really, really appreciate you guys. I love all of you. And every single one of you are so talented. I can talk, I promise. I can talk, I promise. Yep, I said what I said. But T-Paw, I have a question. So I need to know, because some of you, again, that interact with me on Twitter and social media, y'all, know that I do tarot card readings. So I have a couple different decks that I use, and there's someone whose deck that I would love to buy because I appreciate their artwork. Hint, hint. You already know I'm talking about.
Yep. Yeah, she's actually been working on it. Recently, she's been working on October a lot. And she's able to get like one of those a day done because between the baby, between, Luciana, she was breastfeeding, now she's just bottle feeding, but between all the mommy stuff and then like the kids and everything, she's able to get Gotober done, but she's also been working on the tarot deck. And so we're going to work on getting that finished. And then that way she can actually push that out there. Cause I have a website, so I can easily sell the tarot decks on the website if really needed to and everything like that. But yeah, no, we'll be definitely working on that.
This is the deck of cards that I use along with a couple of others. So again, I don't think anyone that comes to the show also knows that I do tarot readings. So again, also another business venture that I'm on. And with my spiritual journey, I also intend to release a second podcast show, which again has more to do with my spiritual journey and talking about, the shadow self, the ego, trauma, and all of those types of things. And again, just speaking on my origin story as well. So this is the only deck of tarot cards that I have right now. So that's the other reason I'm like, I need Ghostel's tarot deck. Okay, thanks. I need it. I need it as a part of my collection because I have a collection here.
Yeah, no, and anybody who's wondering about the whole tarot reading thing, if they, haven't already heard about it for some reason now, where the hell have you been? Kornelia does really on point tarot readings. Now, if you ask her questions like, should I have lasagna today? She'll obviously either be, pushed into, responding with sarcasm, or she'll go, okay, well, the card says this. I'm not sure if that's the answer you wanted. But if it's stuff that's open-ended, but closed-ended enough to where it's direct, but to the point, she could really give some on-point feedback and advice. She's done the same. There was a few weeks, I think it was in August or September. I don't remember exactly because the months blend together for me. But she would come into my DMs a lot and ask me if it's okay to share something. I'd be like, yeah, sure, why not? And so then she would just drop all these cards on me. And then I would look at all the meanings and stuff. And then I'd end up saving all the different photos she sent me because it was really on point. It was insane. But I'm one of those people that would be a doubter at first, right? Because I grew up atheist, but then I also believe there is possibility of a God, that sort of thing. And I do talk to the guy from time to time for all those people who are yeah, but I'm not exactly what you would call completely spiritually connected, but I'm still trying to get there. I am spiritual and stuff, but I'm also the first one to doubt it, but through Kornelia's influence and through her showing me and demonstrating to me different things about that craft, I'm just there's something to this. So if you're ever wondering about that, go and definitely, I think she's got it under Mrs. Gandhi. I literally have, teased and poked fun and said she's America's Gandhi, but there you go.
To which, yes, I will now reveal my name because Kornelia Blackmore is my pen name, but my name is Thada Gandhi Brown. Thada means star in Hindi. My mom is from India and my dad is Black. So just figured I'd let you guys know, where did the whole Gandhi name come from? And I'm no, that's actually, that's my actual name.
If nobody knew about that, I apologize about that. I just, it's on the website, so I was someone.
Listen, at this point, if a motherfucker won't find me, okay. I'm pretty sure my license is floating somewhere on the dark web at this point, so it's cool.
There you go. Now, I just wanted to add on to Kornelia's announcement here for people that are listening and all that. Just so you know, this is not the end of the Vellum.
No.
Okay. The Vellum will continue. Now, I want to reiterate, in the moment isn't about me. In the moment is about all these great people that I bring to you. And when, the Vellum with Kornelia, I want her to do amazing things, and she's got a lot of amazing things going on. I want everyone that I have on my show to outgrow my show and become something bigger, better, and greater. And that is where Cornelia is headed. Then I wanted to also add on to that the Vellum will probably end up being it'll probably end up moving to Fridays, I think. I'm not sure because I have to work out the details with the new person that's going to be coming on the Vellum. And Cornelia, did you know who that was? Is
Would you like to say it or will I?
I'll let you say it. I mean, you are the one that is moving on, so you can bring in the new.
Yes, happily. And ironically, I keep getting the death and rebirth card from the tarot deck, but it's fine. So this is the rebirth part of the process. This is the rebirth part of the process, and it's amazeballs. So, announcement: who will be the new person for the Vellum?
Cheepaw!
Teepaw! I mean, listen, y'all know I gotta do shit in a weird, random, goofy way. It's just how I do things.
It's like drum roll, please. Snoochie noochies.
Just look
Yes,
right here.
And I will be getting with T-Paul, and we're going to go over on what I don't know if it's going to be a new day and time. It more than likely, I think it will be. I think we were talking Friday, so Friday it is. I want to answer a quick question here in the audience real quick and all that.
Yes.
Dana has a tech question for Paul and Cornelia.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible to get captions on these videos for accessibility?
Yes.
The captions are going to come on after we're done on the live. The captions will come up on the rewatch. So
there's actually a plugin you can get for live broadcasts where you can get the captions going. I don't know exactly how to do that, but I know that it's a possibility that you could do that. But it is a lot of what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I don't know how to do that yet. I'll have to look into it. But Dana, I will check in to see if there's a way to do it while the show is going. And if there is, I will get it up there definitely. But anyways, back to this and all that. T-Paul and I are going to discuss when the Vellum is going to reappear. It will be on again next week. I just don't think it'll be on Monday. I think it's probably going to be Friday, T-Paul? Is that the day we decided?
Yeah, that's what we were talking about as being the most available day, as being Fridays. Because my work schedule, Thursdays and Fridays are my days off. And so Fridays used to be game night, but we haven't been doing game night very much the last year and a half. And so I figure if it's sometime in the afternoon, which is usually when the show happens, that's probably the most available.
Okay. All right. So probably next Friday, and I will get that ad out this weekend when it comes up. I'll put a promo out there for when the new time is going to be. And then obviously a day or two beforehand, we will put that out there. And again, if you have an interest in being a guest on the show, if you have an interest in being someone that hosts your own show, reach out to me. I want to get everybody that I can. I want their voices to be heard. And it doesn't have to be about books. It can be about anything. It can be sports. It can be sex. It can be politics. It can be whatever in the hell you want it to be. What's so funny? What did I just miss there?
No, we're just being goofy and random.
Okay.
Yep.
That's all I was. But T-Paul, question. So you had mentioned earlier that you have a podcast show.
Yeah, I did.
And
It's called it's Crazy Peas, actually. That's my main one that's been going on for a while, where me and my brother-in-law, Tim Carnage, 6778, him and I will get together and we will talk about whatever's going on in our life at that moment. And then we'll also talk about whatever show that we're watching that week, or a movie that we watched, and then we'll just kind of BS back and forth about it. And it's kind of like a little podcast show that's meant to just be us fooling around. It's two brothers getting together, talking, shooting the shit, that sort of thing. We've never really had anybody have any interest in appearing on it, though I've asked a few people here and there. But my buddy who's in Sweden is 8 hours ahead of me, and so like, well, it's 2:50 here for my time. It would be 10:50 his time, and so we've never been able to calibrate with him to get him on. I've also, talked to Tim about potentially having other people on that podcast, and like he's been open for it and everything. Just we haven't had anybody necessarily speak up about it. But yeah, that's the other podcast show I have currently at the moment. Though I am going to be probably trying to add more different ones.
I listen. At some point, you got to have us on your show. Just wanted to kind of self-insert and throw that out there. He thinks because I'm definitely going to have. For it. Oh yeah, we're definitely going to have both of you on my show.
Now, Kornelia, when you say us, you're talking about you and your inner dialogue, right?
That's what, Paul. I talk to my spirit guides. You goddamn right. I have some inner dialogue.
Just remember, only 25% of the population does.
No wonder why it's frustrating to watch people play decision-based video games.
And just make note, people, I want you to know, anyone that comes on my show has an inner dialogue. That's the only people I communicate with.
Oh, I have all the inner dialogue up here. What do you think? Okay, so in my series, the series I was talking about before, with Peter and those guys, you got Peter and his altar, you got Trinity and hers, which is from the past, and then you got Sam, which is Peter's cousin. She's got her own that are, in her head. Like all of the main characters in my story series have either dealt with mental illness or budding mental illness. And with Sam, Peter's cousin, descending from one side of the family that has mental illness and the other side of the family that also has mental illness, she's pretty much fucked as far as being able to be a fully quote unquote stable human being who's actually technically fae, who's a fairy. But I have so many different characters in my story that have to deal with mental illness, but we all collaborate together in different ways. Beautiful. Each of us growing together yet separately. Okay, I'll shut up now. No, keep talking.
Oh, you know what? I didn't forgot to mention something else. Some of y'all do know that I do stream video games and stuff too. And no, I don't plan to make money off of anything in relation to that. I just do it for shits and giggles because I like interacting with you guys. I've been a heavy part of the anime and video game community since I was a teenager. So that was the other reason. For anyone that was wondering, how come she has the video game playthroughs on her YouTube? That's why.
Okay.
Because
favorite anime
are fun.
Oh,
Cornelia, favorite anime.
Jesus Christ, you had to ask me that. All right. No, because my brain is now you didn't invited a whole bunch because I can't just say one because
come on. Favorite right now. Come on. Best one comes to the top of your head right now. It's the one that you're thinking of. It is
Death Note.
Death Note's pretty cool too.
Death Note. And the only reason why is because I loved the deleted scene and I'm so upset that they took it out. They should have kept that fucking scene in the series. It was so symbolic. It was so symbolic. But then again, I like that. Psychopaths is another good one, which again is very psychological. So psychological thrillers. Shit. There's Demon Slayer. There's Inuyasha. There's real life. I have a list.
T-pop. Favorite anime.
One of my favorites that I've seen recently is Castlevania, though I really, really didn't like.
Oh, Castlevania is good. Castlevania is good. No lie, I actually saw the beginning part of the episode and the part where she was being burned at the stake. Sorry, first episode's not really a spoiler, but when that happened, I started crying because reincarnated memories came up, and I was like, "Yep, I remember saying that shit." That's great.
Yeah. Dude, that episode hit hard. Like it did.
Right?
Like it was part of what me like sucked into it. I mean, granted, every episode was like short; they're like 20, 30 minutes, but like they go hard. Like Castlevania, is a dark, bloody show, and
Attack
I think
on
that
Titan. Another good one.
Attack on Titan is also pretty good. Yeah,
I gotta tell y'all this. Do not, I repeat, do not spoil Attack on Titan for me, okay? Because I left off on first season. I am not one of those people where it's like, oh yeah, sure, I'm just gonna watch the show as the episodes come out. No, fuck that. I am a binge watcher, okay? So please don't spoil that for me because I'm waiting for the show to be done. Okay, thanks. I'm just letting y'all know now. I would be highly upset if anybody spoils it for me.
I would never do that.
What's funny is I'm surprised there's not as many questions, and then I realized that I'm the one who asked all the questions.
Oh, that's what we do.
I was gonna say,
We collaborate.
I had questions. No, I did that too. I asked that question. I did. I have a whole notepad. No, wait. Okay.
Now, when I first started doing this, I had a longer list of questions, but I always see that a question leads into another question that I don't have written down. So I only write down a couple questions, and I just let the conversation lead itself now.
Hey,
Oh, that's okay. Kornelia pretty much just played the show off her own buffoonery.
Buffoonery and shenanigans is what I am here for.
Yes. Have any of you watched Cowboy Bebop?
Classic. Classic. I haven't
Moment.
seen all of it, but yes.
Moments. I've been more of like an American comics TV type guy that like for a long time. Even though the wife is definitely an anime, she calls herself Weibo. But like definitely an anime person. See that look on your face. I said Weibo, you're just like you got a look on your face. But like, he's been more the anime person. But yeah, I got a few of them that I watch, and you call it Cowboy Bebop. I've watched a few moments of that on YouTube.
Yeah, it starts out in a casino, so I'm hooked. I'm a casino guy, so I love the casino atmosphere. And once it started, it's like, okay, I'm watching this.
Yeah.
You destroyed a fucking casino, hell yeah! All right, yeah.
Yeah, man. Between casinos and like being a bounty hunter, yeah.
Ghost in the Shell.
Ooh, Ghost in the Shell is good.
Ghost in the Shell was brutal.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes, it is.
Yes. So now, if we have anybody that's in the audience that would like to do a show on anime, hey, there's an idea. Someone that's like a anime fanatic, manga, any of it, hell, we can even talk about hentai if you want to, but hey, I'll leave it up to you.
All I'm saying is that I've been scarred.
Okay. We're running up on the hour now. Normally we would do an after show for my Patreon, but we're not doing that today. Jay, who comes on next, Jay has his show at 4 p.m. Eastern, or 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. And Jay's show is going to be a spectacular show today also. So, but we still have a lot of prep to do on Jay's show. So no after show today. Normally, T-Paw, what we do is we go in after we close out of here, and we go into a after show, and that goes on Patreon. But today we're not doing that. When you do your first episode, we'll do that, and then we'll have the after show, and that can consist of a lot of things. That's where we go off topic, and I host it on Patreon. So down the road, get a Patreon, because then I'll load the videos over to you, and you can put them on your Patreon also, and hopefully make some money. It's about monetization. But
yeah.
Anybody else had any more questions for us before we call it a day? You need to watch Samurai Champloo.
Samurai Champloo is good.
I'll look into it for sure.
All right. Well, if that's the case, Cornelia, God damn, this has been a 4 great fucking episodes. I love you, my dear. You are talented. You are gifted. You are a star up in the night sky that just guides people. I hope people will find your star and follow you and learn from you. Thank you again.
I thank you, Paul, really. And same. I mean, that is what my name means.
Yep. And if you ever decide that you want to show, as long as, because I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life, this is what I'm doing. This is my job for the rest of my life. I'm 54, so I hope I live to be 100. But just in case I don't, you might want to get in here quickly. Get on here. I will get you going. And Cornelia, you will always have a place on my show, no matter what it is I'm doing, wherever I'm at. Whether I'm governor, president, or just some stupid little podcaster, you always got a place.
No, see, you're a podcaster. You're not a stupid little podcaster. And I do want to say, Cornelia, this has been an absolute gift to be able to be on a show with you, and absolute gift to be on a show with you, Paul, as well. Yeah, yes. Fingers go this way. And it's been, amazing to be here. And God damn it, later on, be a co-host as well as not just a guest.
Yes. Yeah. All right, everyone. Remember, be kind, be happy, and may good things come your way. Love everybody.